Okay, and we're live. Right, so welcome everyone. This is the first of hopefully 4 games in October for Dungeon World, which I'll be GMing, probably later publishing under my Patreon stuff. Right, this is the first one we're going to do under a new thing I'm going to try, which is basically kind of a frame for one-shots called the Never Been Kings. So this is going to be a format that I'm going to try and roll with for the month, see how we get on, as basically a way of justifying people coming in for one game, coming out for others. So everyone who has joined the game has already seen this love letter, but I'll just read it out for everyone listening now. Dear freelancers of mixed repute, you're currently working with a mercenary company called the Never Been Kings. Known worldwide, the company gets people like you in touch with jobs that you like. Treasures to be reclaimed, clients to be freed, battles to be fought, that sort of thing. Right now, you're in the middle of a job. We'll talk about that later. For now, you should keep in mind you're expected to work with your colleagues to complete the job to the best of your ability. In return, your expenses and living costs are paid. Although you probably don't get as much as you'd like, you get it regularly and don't have to go hunting for work when times are tight. Plus, obviously, any bonuses you get are yours to keep. And if the players want to know more, they can try spouting lore in true Dungeon World style, or they can ask at the office the next time they're available, next time they're there. Next time they're back in town, I suppose, to spend their ill-gotten gains. Before we start, let's do a quick rundown, starting with you, Alex, of who you are and who your character is, and also what's the kind of just a basic introduction of your character, just a couple of lines, who you are, your class, what you look like, that sort of thing.
Okay, I am Astrophel, the Elvish Bard, who is chaotic. I've got fiery eyes, wild hair, traveling clothes, and a fit body. And I carry with me a fine loot that was a gift from a noble, the dueling rapier, leather armor, and adventuring gear.
Awesome. Awesome. A gift from your father, was it, the loot?
No, from a noble.
Oh, from a noble, sorry. A gift from a noble. Ah, okay. Cool. So why did you get your loot as a gift? What was it as a reward for?
What did I do? I killed some rats in their basement.
Wow. And they gave you a loot in return?
Yes.
You asked for some loot, maybe, and they gave you... Oh.
They told me, oh, we have some loot for you. And then, wait.
Just some loot we found somewhere.
Nice. Fair enough. Did you ever manage to get anything of actual use from them, or were you happy with the loot?
Oh, it was okay. I didn't really do much with the rats, so just looked at them.
You didn't actually do the job. So you're like, whoa, right, you ummed and ahed, but you took the reward. Didn't do the job.
I just turned off the lights and said, oh, they're gone.
My God, it's some kind of magic. Okay, awesome. Okay, good stuff. Might be an obvious question, I suppose, but so what caused you to join up with this mercenary company with the Never Been Kings?
Well, I heard they have dental, and well, because I need some real loot, because just with this loot I can pay all my bills and other expenses I have. Plus I get to work with, well, famous is probably not the right word, infamous people.
Sure.
So I will have lots of stories to tell.
Yeah, so you get kind of bonus added, because for all the kind of fancy stories and tales that you want to try and tell the world, you kind of get to meet a load of interesting people as part of your work now.
Yeah, and kill them.
And kill them. Okay, cool. Excellent way to introduce the fellow PCs. Okay, cool. To that end. So, Christian, you're playing Rage Cage, the Lizard Wizard.
Yes, indeed.
So, just very briefly, do you want to introduce your character?
Yes, indeed. I am a large lizard, essentially, sort of a man-sized thing. I've got wolf furs on, because I was born in a very cold country. Being a lizard is not very, very ideal. I also have what's known as a blood warming amulet around my neck, which means I can survive in cold climates. I've essentially been on the road my entire life, having never been sure why I'm a wizard and what they're there for. I'm very curious to find out about any magic or anything that goes on in the world I've not heard of as yet.
Cool.
So I'm on a bit of a voyage of discovery.
Is that what's caused you to kind of sign a contract with this mercenary company then, as a kind of way of finding
indeed,
more
and
loot?
I think it's a way of sort of getting food, paying the bills, and/or being able to find some stuff out and travel without having to worry about taking care of myself.
Mm. Yeah, it helps to kind of keep your means.
Yeah, indeed.
I mean, you're obviously, by virtue of signing a contract, you're kind of beholden to them. You have to kind of be on their beck and call, because I suppose the way I'm thinking of it is there's like an office, or there's like a representative in like most of the big towns. It's not going to be one in every last bilgewater and backwater there is, but most big towns, it's like if you haven't spoken to one of them in a while, you're expected to report in because you're kind of under contract. Otherwise, you're kind of seen as shirking. So I guess there's that, but on the other hand, your kind of expenses and stuff are more or less paid for. Maybe not perfectly, like you still can't find a suitably lizard-sized chair, but one that fits your tail and everything. But you never get
holes in them.
Yeah, you have to keep cutting holes everywhere you go, casting magic missile through the bottom of the chair to give room for your tail. Yeah, but otherwise it's a sweet little deal overall. It's just so long as it's not any missions which have caused you to kind of lose things that you wanted, I suppose. I mean, have you ever had anything like that, Rage Cage?
I have my holy symbol, which was to do with the sun or a star, and I could cast and cause great heat in an isolated place. However, I lost that trying to cast down a large gelatinous creature.
Oh yeah,
which went horribly wrong.
So well. That's true.
And I made it even more angry. So.
In that fabled adventure we call The Time When Christian Rolled a Lot of Double Ones.
The whole session, what was up with that? Like,
it wasn't ideal, was it?
No.
Right, good stuff. Fletcher.
Cool.
What's your name and where'd you come from? Well, I know your name.
Well, the name's Fletcher, and I come from a town sort of I like to think sort of somewhere in the northern regions of this continent or this world. Kind of a bit of a ragtag scout for what would have been an army for someone's army. Had enough of taking orders from too many people and sitting out in the cold, and decided that I'd rather just earn my own keep doing something else. Quite a good tracker, quite a good with a bow, not too bad with a sword, and used to kind of living difficult life. And when the opportunity came up to join the Never Been Kings, I thought, that sounds not too bad. Another good bunch of guys like me with the same sort of mindset. I'm going to go out there, earn my keep, get a bit of extra money behind me, maybe retire to a nice place in the south where it's warm for a change.
Nice.
Eventually.
So, I guess I can imagine, like, these, not town criers, but like advertising guys, basically. I can imagine kind of reps, basically, like mercenary reps. Kind of going into kind of downtrodden armies like yours was, and kind of spreading the good word of like, look, if you want to earn some real gold, come talk to me after dark and da. So I can imagine quite a few people. You say it would have been an army, so does that mean? Am I right in thinking it's like it didn't even almost get to fight a war? Is it just like?
Well, I think that he's been fighting a few wars. He's probably been in a few battles, and either it wasn't going the way it should have been, or had enough of just having to constantly be on the move and fighting, and just decided to, if we can keep moving, might as well earn some pay on the way, rather than just running away from someone or something else. So.
Might as well move in the direction you want, rather than keep marching for the sake of
so sort of spend some time just doing little bits of mercenary work and adventuring work and hunting various beasts and people and whatever. But now I've got a bit of a thing behind me. I can earn. It's easy to find the jobs.
So I reckon probably a few of your fellow soldiers joined up at the same time as you. Like, you weren't the only one out of your army to answer the call. So what happened to all the others? How come you're the only one left?
Well, let's see. They as I say, we had a job that ended up going into some rather nasty orc territory or something, and I was the only one who managed to, as far as I'm aware, the only one who managed to get back out of it. And the job, we didn't manage to complete the job, but we got set upon in the night, and as far as I'm aware, I'm the only one that got back out of it. So.
As far as you're aware, so it basically was like the route, was it?
Yeah, pretty much. You had to get out of there pretty quick, and unfortunately, everyone else didn't make it, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, we've got. Sorry, there's a little bit of hiss on. Is that? Oh, is that you, Chris?
Bad noise somewhere.
Any ideas?
It might be me.
I think it's you, Chris. Is there a problem with your mic, maybe? Oh, yeah, he's sorting himself out. Okay, while he's sorting himself out. So finally, Kuru. Just for my own clarification, Matt, is this the same Kuru that we played before, or is this a kind of a slightly different? Is this a new character with the same name?
I basically say it's a new character with the same name.
Cool.
In fact, I've been, I might actually even change the name.
Okay. It's a new character with a new name.
Yeah.
That makes it easier.
Slightly, because I'm confusing myself. I've been kind of playing around with monks a little bit lately in different places, and I have another one that's sort of similar idea, and his name is Kerr.
Okay.
So I'll just call this guy Kerr as well.
Kerr. Okay. Kerr.
So basically a new character, because he's a dragon monk, which is a class I've been developing, and then this is sort of playtest. So
Cool.
Sounds
good.
Yeah.
So tell us about him.
Kerr was, as you are, he was abandoned in front of the monastery on the mountain as a baby, and raised and trained by the monks. And when he was old enough, and he basically passed into the first circle, where he was judged capable of actually doing something with what he had learned, he did just about the worst thing you can do, which is he ran away from the monastery because he wanted to find his parents. He did find them. Unfortunately, they're both slaves. So he's with the Never-Been Kings to earn the money to buy their freedom.
Ah, okay. So out of his sort of monthly stipend, he's not spending it all on ale and whores like some of these other reprobates. He's putting it all aside, carefully squirreling it away. Where's he keeping it? Is it something he's physically holding on to, or is it with some kind of bank or trust or someone?
I can't tell you that.
You can't tell me that?
No,
Okay.
No, he... I was actually thinking, because, I mean, of course, he grew up in a monastery on top of the highest mountain.
Sure.
So he's not really that familiar with the world in general. In fact, there are probably ways he could make money faster with his skills, but this was the first thing that he ran into, and someone convinced him to join. I actually think, I mean, they're actually a traveling around a lot kind of thing, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's the sort of thing where you have it's a very flexible arrangement where it's so long as you kind of sign in on a regular enough basis and kind of take on missions, you're going to keep on getting a stipend paid to you in whatever way you see fit. You know, someone will check a ledger of magical means and say, oh yes, you're owed this much, and here's your next job, sir stroke madam.
Yeah,
something of that means, and then whoever else is in the office with you. What's happened today, potentially, unless you guys want to sort of set up a mini bond right now and say that you guys know each other from a previous adventure, I would more or less say the four of you met each other in the office and the same job was available, and here you are.
Right. So yeah, Kerr's not very worldly. His first impulse would be to bury it, and realizing that isn't going to work that well because there isn't really necessarily a single place that he's always coming back to get paid.
Sure.
He has probably trusted, perhaps it wasn't a good idea, but at the moment he trusts someone in the organization, probably the first, I don't know, first figure of authority, that he encountered, he's trusting them to essentially dock his pay and keep it for him.
So
he's
the first
them as
time,
a bank.
got it. So there's essentially there should be a bank, a trust within this organization, within the company. Whoever's the kind of the Bürgermeister, like the main Bürgermeister of this organization, should have been informed that you're keeping something aside.
Yep.
Because I mean, you're keeping bread and board, but I guess they don't look too closely at that because it's not like you're guzzling away ale and wine and bread on the company's expense or anything like that. So
he basically eats rice and drinks water. So
yeah. So you wouldn't
minimal.
even necessarily know that you're getting your full money's worth, even if it was an issue.
Yeah.
You're just so it's just sort of going on trust, and there's this idea that, well, there's some kind of major organization with these guys. Magical means, steampunkery means, we haven't decided yet, but suffice to say there's some kind of means that these guys are keeping track of everyone's kind of accounts, and you're going on that level of trust. Okay.
Yeah.
Sound good? Cool. Just before we start as well, just give us a quick rundown of your class as well, just so we know what to expect.
Dragon monks are monks in the relatively normal sort of D&D or other games template, but one of the big things that's I guess different about them is the monastery where they are trained is on top of, like I said, the biggest mountain, and under the mountain are numerous dragons sleeping, and each of the dragons is directly tied to an element. And as part of the training, each dragon monk chooses or is chosen for a certain element, so their powers relate to the elements themselves. He is a fire dragon monk. Unlike monks in other games, the dragon monks don't use weapons at all.
Right.
A lot of their moves are sort of powered by ki. So he has to meditate and regenerate his ki occasionally, and then he spends ki. He has ki points, and then spends those to use certain powers.
Got it.
It's also kind of obvious that he has something to do with all of this when you see him, because it looks like, depending on the mood, it looks like there are reflections of flames in his eyes, or perhaps that his eyes themselves are on fire.
Right.
Depending on how concentrated, aggressive, emotional, or whatever he is.
Cool. So we have a flame-touched monk, a lizardy wizard wrapped in wolf furs, an elven bard dressed. How were you dressed exactly, Astrafel? Was it
traveling cloak and what's the other thing? And the leather armor.
Leather armor. So sort of traveling leathers, fairly not the sort of finest fineries, just more rugged material.
Yeah, for a quick escape.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about making anything dirty.
So a simply dressed elf bard and our former soldier, stroke trapper, stroke huntsman, stroke whatever the class is actually called, Fletcher.
Hunter.
Hunter. There we go. Got it. With all of his, I guess you. What's your look? What are your look options?
I've gone. That's a good question. I'm sort of hooded, long cloak, kind of like mostly ranger gear, just bits of leather armor and stuff like that. Sort of remnants of from the soldiering life that's a bit ragtag and faded, maybe. The insignia is probably like worn out and that sort of thing. And then it's sort of cobbled together. I've probably got a mismatched gauntlet or whatever and boots or something. And
sure. Or cobbled together old soldiers' gear.
Yeah, so it might be the case that I've maybe he's got quite a nice pair of boots, but he's not using them anymore, so I'll have them sort of thing.
Sure.
In places. So yeah.
Excellent. So our sort of cobbled together gear, ranger as well. The four of you are currently on an old, pretty sordid, seen better days, an old canal barge that's sort of winding its way down a river. The sky is grey and bleak in this sort of bleak mid-afternoon of early autumn.
Water.
Yep, surrounded by water. So everyone's staying nice and close to Kerr as a source of warmth, whether he actually is warm or not. You're about probably a few miles downstream of Sherford, a little abandoned town in the middle of nowhere, basically. You don't know the full details other than this place was a fair ways walk from where you sort of picked up the mission, or there was a boat going this way, which is what you're on right now. Your goal is relatively straightforward, at least as far as the office was concerned. You're here to deliver something, a magical regent for one of the company's clients. Alex Astrofoff, you can Astrophel rather, you can pick it for us. Is it either a criminal's head wrapped in silk, an icy gem that makes the bearer seem dead, or the town deed to Sherford, which is known as a rather humdrum strip of cursed land? Which one of the things are you here to deliver?
The gem.
The gem, okay. So who's got the gem at the moment out of the four of you? Anyone? For show of hands, or I'll pick someone.
I don't mind.
Okay. In that case, Rage Cage is currently holding it.
I knew that.
Call out the guy who says I don't mind to find out whether or not he minds. So here we go. So your lizard wizard is kind of isn't necessarily literally holding it, but it's on your person somewhere. There's a gem, fairly normal looking gemstone, really, about the size of your fist. It's bright blue, like a clear winter's day blue. And while it's sort of on your person, while it's near to your person, to others you seem dead. If there was things like heart scanners and stuff like that, your heart would not be seen as beating. You would look, to all intents and purposes, dead to the world. You're not physically rotting or anything like that, but there's just something about you which seems like life has stopped in you. But to you seem fine. It's like, what, is there something on my shirt? It's that, everyone else is looking at, sort of taking a weird double take at you as if there's something wrong with you. But
so I appear to be physically dead, or like there's just no, I don't have a heartbeat and stuff.
No, you still have a heartbeat. It's just as to other people looking at you, trying to sense you, trying to perceive you're there through magical means, scientific means, or otherwise. Okay. It's just you just seem dead to the world. Your kind of your life force, your soul is kind of masked. Yeah. It seems like nothing to you. I mean, maybe you feel a little bit colder than you would do, but it's a cold, wet day anyway. You've just kind of got a little bit of cold that you can't quite shake off while the gem's on your person. Okay. Anyway, so there you go. You got this gem. You've been given this gem. It was given to you in a sealed office from a particularly dead. To your eyes, it seemed like the guy in the office was a particularly boring, almost dead-looking guy. It's like, wow, this guy loves his job. And then you got the gem off him. It's like, oh, okay, fair enough. Clearly, you've been holding on to it for a while. So he's kind of glad to get rid of this gem to get it delivered to Sherford, to their contract, who they tell you is a man. Although the guy. Your rep seemed kind of vague about that, but it was certainly a man, an individual of some kind, called Demophon, who lives in Sherford. To anyone who's been around here a while, I guess, Kerr, this probably wouldn't include you, but I suppose it's fair games that it could be any of the others if you've been in whatever last town you're in a while. You would know that Sherford is not... it's not a regular town. It's basically a ghost town. It's been abandoned for quite some time. So it's quite weird that you get a job to go to Sherford. But nonetheless, there's a boat that's going that way, and that's what you're on right now. You're on this rotten barge a mile downstream to this supposedly abandoned town, kind of winding its way down. There's a light drizzle in the air. The town's supposed to be abandoned, like I say, but about a few miles away from the town proper, you hear a thunk going across the air, and then another thunk, and before long you see a few notches appear in the side of the barge, this slowly moving barge, and from both sides you see these sort of shadowy shapes kind of ducking behind reeds and clumps of mud and everything else on these various old riverbanks, firing at you, firing arrows from both sides of the riverbank onto your slowly winding down barge. One of them hits your ferryman. There's one of the just a humble townsfolk who's just going this way. He takes an arrow right in the sternum, thunk, slumps over the tiller, and the whole barge starts slowly kind of veering towards the western bank. and these arrows just carry on flying back and forth, more or less. So, I mean, you're obviously you're savvy enough to keep your heads down for the moment, but obviously, if you do nothing, the barge is going to start veering into the bank, and then whoever's on that western bank will be able to get to you. What do you do?
I'm gonna from this position of cover. I'm going to shout at. Sorry, I'm trying to remember everyone's names. I'm going to shout at Ashtrafel. What the hell do you call that thing? It's a wheel, right?
What's that? The tiller?
The tiller, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shout something on the lines of. I don't know how well I know these guys, but I'll shout, Ashtrafel, grab the tiller, and it's like rage cage, let fire, and I'm just gonna pull back an arrow and just start firing off the first guy I can see. I'm just gonna try and put an arrow in him.
Okay, fair enough. Kerr, since you weren't sort of in that, what are you doing at this moment?
So just because I maybe I missed it, it's swerving towards where we're going to, or away from?
No, it's you're supposed to be going 3 miles down the river, and the boat is heading towards the west bank right now. So it's kind of gonna, if you do nothing to kind of correct the course and get the now pretty much dead ferryman out the way, you're just going to kind of ground yourself against the bank, and you'll have to walk it.
Curl put his hands together, and flames appear between them, and he throws it at the bank.
Okay, cool. Is he aiming at anyone in particular, or because these arrows are just sort of? I mean, there are plenty of shapes there, but
is there any way to tell anything about them, or is it basically?
I imagine you could try discerning realities.
Yeah.
To have a quick discern realities before making your shot, perhaps.
That's an int, and I've got nothing.
That's whiz, actually. Wisdom for
that's
discerning.
That's a whiz. Oh, that's pretty good then. So that's 9.
Cool. 9. So that's. Have you got the questions to hand? Let me just add them in the chat for you if you're not.
I've got the PDF here.
Great.
I just need
so
to
that's
open
one question from that for a 9.
Alright.
And you get +1 when acting on the answers.
Let me just get to the right page. Who's really in control here?
Who's really in control here? Okay. So you're looking out along. You're kind of not, standing full up and making yourself a blatant target here, but you're kind of taking a close eye along the south bank as you're kind of veering towards it and kind of looking over your shoulder. You're in a kind of like a shallow bottom boat, basically. It's just a flat bottom boat with a tiller at the end. It's open plan, but you've got kind of the sides of the wood, which are getting quickly perforated by arrows, but it's still basically whole. And you're just kind of backed up against the side of that, taking a quick peek over the side to kind of get your bearings. Who's really in control here? I'd say that as of this moment, the attackers on the west bank, the one that you're veering towards, are the ones who are most in control, just because kind of the ferryman is kind of slumped. He's not in control of the boat. The boat's going to go to the west bank, and then once that boat runs aground, you're kind of going to be at their mercy, because you'll be in the boat, you'll be trying to get out into the shallow water, they can rush you. It's a bad tactical situation.
Yeah. I don't know if it makes any sense to or if it's the right thing to do with the move, but what I'm specifically kind of looking for is scanning if there's anybody on either side that seems to be in command.
Sure. And there isn't.
Okay.
And there isn't. Else I would have told you.
Yeah.
In terms of who's in control, to kind of clarify, in terms of who's in control, in a way, no one is. It's a scene of total chaos. But I suppose in terms of who's most in control, in terms of getting the upper hand here, it'd be your attackers on the west bank, as opposed to the ones on the east, or yourselves, or the ferryman, or someone else.
Then on the west bank, he'll pick the nearest archer.
Cool.
And have a throw.
Okay, cool. Go for it. Is that a volley or?
That's a volley with whiz.
Gotcha.
So that's a 9 as well.
That's a 9 as well. So that's you can do your damage. You can put yourself in danger. You can spend ammo, I guess. Would that be additional key in your case?
Yeah, spend ammo is minus key, yeah.
So you can spend key, you can take minus 1d6 damage, or you can move to put yourself in danger, which would be really interesting given you're on a barge.
Yeah, that's quite old as well.
Yeah, and it would especially suck for him because he's kind of allergic to water in a way.
You're cool.
I'll spend 1 key.
Okay, so you spend your key and you deal your damage. You spot a shape. Basically, you just spot like a bush that's kind of rustling and an arrow coming out of it, and that's what you aim for.
Yeah.
Throw a fireball its way.
So
And deal your damage.
6.
6, cool. Okay, well, despite the kind of drizzling rain kind of putting a dampener on everything, you see the hedge and a figure within it go up for satisfying whoomph. And you see kind of a dark figure recoiling out of it, and a crossbow falling out of his or her hands. Actually, no, you see a shot go wide. You see like a shot go chunk, like straight up into the air, and kind of just fly off harmlessly. Cool. Okay, so Astrophel. I can't say it. Astrophel. There's always one name I can't say. Astrophel, Rage Cage. You had your orders while all this is going on with fireballs and scanning the shore and such. You had your orders from the former soldier. What do you actually do? Let's start with you, Astrophel.
I make my way to the tiller, and the first thing I do is check if the boatsman is really dead, or if I can maybe revive him or help him.
He's bleeding profusely from his side, and he is kind of slumped over. As you approach him, you see both his hands are trying to vaguely kind of clutch at his bleeding side. He's got quite a belly to him, and there's a good amount of blood coming out from under his kind of his jerkin. You hear him kind of groan as you approach, and maybe if you, I don't know, prod him or something. So he's not dead just yet, but without much help, he'll need a lot of help. Preferably a blood transfusion, and at least to get out of the line of fire before you can do anything with him.
Yeah, because I wanted to weave a performance into a basic spell and try to heal him.
Okay.
Because having one more live body would be kind of useful, I think.
Sure.
So
okay.
I'll just go heal the stabby wound.
Okay. Are you doing anything to remove the arrow at the same time?
I'll just play a song and keep him occupied with the song, and at the height of the song, I'll just pull out the arrow and hope that the magic of the song works.
Okay, fair enough. I'm going to call that a defy danger using Dex, because you're basically pulling out whether you do it at the start or the end of the song's up to you, but there's basically kind of a swift motion that's swift enough for him to not quite realise at kind of the height of your song.
Okay,
so go ahead and defy danger with Dex. And otherwise do your move as normal.
Okay, that's Dex is +2,
Mm-hmm.
so
that's a 9. Okay,
9.
Cool. No worries. And let's see how the actual move itself plays out.
Okay, that's Charisma. That's also +2, and that's is something happening.
You might need to
clear it first.
Okay.
Clear it first and then roll it again.
Ooh.
Ooh. Ooh,
Yeah.
nasty. Right, so that's a 4, 5, 6. So mark experience. And let's see if there's anything in particular with your... just remind myself. Arcane Art. It says nothing in particular on a miss. So on a miss, nothing in particular. Basically, the song kind of goes off. You're trying to kind of do a little dance, do a little song around him, say da 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 da, and you're healed. And there's a couple of problems there. One, that the arrows are still whizzing around, so you kind of have to go da 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 da. Oh god! You're sort of trying to duck around, and it's kind of throwing off your rhythm, and your arcane rhythm, and the spell doesn't really go off because of that. But you're still kind of playing it off, and then you're like, okay, and you're cured, and you kind of pull the thing out, and you kind of in the motion of it, you manage to kind of pull the actual shaft out, don't cure the wounds, and it's like, you're left with a bloodied shaft in your hand. It's kind of a nasty looking one as well. It's an old barb. It's an old wooden barb. Looks like it's been kind of picked up from a muddy ground and kind of just made do. Anyway, you sling that away, but the guy isn't healed. He's just bleeding profusely from an open wound, and he just groans and goes, "Roar!" And he's still on the tiller, and the boat is still going towards the edge of the till the shore. Cool. While this is going on, Rage Cage.
I am going to try and make myself invisible whilst trying to grab the sort of tiller for the boat and steer it away from the bank. Okay. I'm keen not to sort of like do that and go, "Oh, hi guys, I'm steering the boat. Please shoot at me." So
okay. So to clarify, there is a huge fat bleeding man on top of the tiller right now. He is slumped on top of it. It's not saying you can't do it. Totally not saying you can't do it, but you're going to be defying danger using strength to push him and the tiller at the same time.
Okay.
But he'll be totally dead any second now, and then you could just nudge him off.
Yeah, sure. I mean, he won't mind anyway.
Astrofel just killed him, so I mean, it'll be fine.
Okay, so I don't know if I can do the two at once.
You totally can. You can just string a couple of moves together. So go ahead and roll plus intellect first, because that's your casting a spell.
That's not so great.
And that went really well.
Well, yes, it did indeed.
So mark experience for that. So you are not invisible. I forget. So you've got your spell book, haven't you? Of course. What's your spell book like? I forget if we've described this before.
It's like a tome, like a really heavy old leather-bound like Bible almost. But it weighs nothing. It's magical. So even though it's absolutely massive, you can pick it up and like it weighs essentially nothing. It's just,
weighs the same as like a regular book would. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Weight for. The weight, it has the same weight as a list of. No, I won't say that. Actually, that's a bit mean. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay. So you've got your mighty tome out, and you're like, right, which one's the invisibility? Which is the invisibility? Okay, it's this one, and you kind of get the one for. Let's see. I'm trying to think of something that's like invisibility. It's the one that makes the book invisible, so you can hide it. So you're just like, yes, I'll cast that one. You cast it, and your book kind of goes semi-transparent. You're like, ah. So there you go. So you are currently not invisible, but your magical spell book is. So no one's going to be stealing that anytime soon. So that's the good news.
They won't shoot it with arrows either. It's awesome.
And the arrows are still flying, and you're still heading towards the shore. Obviously, you can still, as you said before, you can still try and push the guy. Obviously, the danger here, above and beyond not being able to do it, is you're going to get peppered with arrows.
Yeah, indeed.
Up to you.
I think we should probably try, because otherwise, I don't know what the other guys want to do. We're steering rapidly towards the shore, so I don't know if we want to try and keep going and try and be safe, like further down the shore, if we want to try and fight people when we get there.
Fletcher, you've kind of seen all this happen now. We've kind of almost done the bullet time thing. So you've kind of given your orders, and you've seen Astrofel pull a arrow out from a bleeding man's side, and the lizard make his book go invisible. It's not kind of coming together like the well-oiled military machine code. What do you do?
Having seen the wizard turn his book invisible, I'm just gonna go, and then pull an arrow out of the bag and just try and take one of the. Seeing as we're going to be we're rapidly moving towards the edge, and if we're moving towards the western bank, I'm going to try and feather at least one of the guys on the bank before we get there, following Kerr's kind of tactic of taking a few of them out.
Fair enough. Okay, sounds good. Do you want? Are you going to sort of say anything to the others, or let them do their own thing?
I imagine that they've kind of got their own thing going on, and I've said we need to grab hold of the tiller, but if we land, we're landing, and the short till's coming out. So
okay. So your priority is just on sort of finning the herd now, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, because the way I see it, the way I'm seeing it going, it's like we're gonna land this thing at some point. Let's kill a few of them off before we get there.
Sounds good. Okay, go for it.
Can I ask something really quickly?
Of course you can.
How fast was the boat moving before we started?
It's not going. It wasn't going particularly fast, and still isn't. It's not a particularly big canal. It's an old, muddy, silted canal, and the bank is pretty close. You know, you're only going at like 5 miles an hour. It's vaguely quicker than walking and more comfortable. It was billed as not perilous, but here you are. So yeah, it's not like radically faster than walking, to be fair.
Okay.
And it's about to get a lot slower. So as you're sort of veering into that, you're pretty much going to come up against the bank now. I'm not sure if there's much else you can do. You might be able to kind of, if you can get the guy off the tiller right now, if one or more of you can do that, then you might be able to scrape keeping yourself kind of afloat. But otherwise, this thing is going to come crashing straight into the shore now because you're kind of swinging perilously close. Meanwhile, as this is happening, yep, you're totally taking some shots, Fletcher. So go ahead and is it just a straight up volley?
Yep, straight up volley.
Go for it.
Ugh.
Well, it's all coming up Millhouse for you guys today, isn't it?
Wow.
Yeah.
This is why they call you the Never Been Kings.
Never
Right.
will be kings.
Never will be, exactly. Awesome. Experience all round. And I think as you go up to take a shot.
I set a guy on fire. Come on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we got one down.
Not
We got
all
one
round.
pushed down.
I haven't got any XP yet. That's a lucky one.
So
I don't know. My book's invisible. It's not. Yeah.
So as you basically jump up to take a shot, Fletcher, you're trying to gauge your target, and the boat is veering perilously. So the boat kind of pitches you forward a little bit, kind of knocks your aim, causing your arrow to just go straight into the water. So you skip you lose one ammo.
Okay.
From that. And you're also kind of right up and in the line of fire as the thing's kind of veering closer.
Yep.
What do you do?
I'm going to. Are we literally about to crash into the side here?
Unless anyone wants to jump in by saying, if you're all committed to kind of just crashing now, then yes. Otherwise, is everyone agreed on that? Is anyone going to try and move the tiller now?
I think we've gone a bit. Well, we can try, but
you're not. So to clarify, you're not. You know, if one or more of you wants to try and kind of push the guy off the tiller and pull it back, it's now or never. So
right.
if one of you wants to try and do that, that kind of makes your journey into town a lot easier and kind of might let you kind of not outrun these guys, but at least keeps them away from you. You know, if you don't want to do that, if you want to kind of commit to landing on the shore and just kind of taking the battle to them, then you know that's fine.
Well, considering I'm in quite considerable danger at the moment and might get feathered myself, I'm gonna drop down behind cover as quickly as I can.
Cool. Okay, fair enough. You do so. You can just completely. That's fine. You just jump down. Yeah. So you hear kind of tunk 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 of the rotten wood kind of below you, and you kind of feel a trickle of water coming in from like a punctured hole. It's not enough to sink the vessel, but there's arrows kind of perforating the wood as you're kind of basically coming ashore. So yeah, you guys are sort of rapidly coming aground. Kerr, you're still kind of not like stood there, but you're kind of there bracing yourself against the side, eyes glowing with righteous fireball fury. What do you do?
Trying to decide whether it's a better idea to get onshore and beat the crap out of these guys, because they can just keep up with us.
Sure.
But of course, if we run aground, we could have a real problem as far as getting where we're going.
Would it be useful if I set the scene for you guys a little bit more? Or
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the ground itself is not super favourable. It's an old muddy bank that's sort of got silted up. So it would be slow going to kind of get out of the bank. And then once you kind of get out of the bank, you've got kind of hedgerows and stuff. And then, I mean, as best you can tell, these guys are crossbowmen as opposed to close combat guys. I mean, they're just throwing hails of arrows at you. It would have occurred to one or more of you that, well, you know, if they're just kind of crossbow guys, it's unlikely they've got lots of guys with. They're aiming to kind of punch you and stop your boat, not kind of take you out in combat. So it's possible that once you can get past the kind of the silted bank, you might be able to get the advantage, and then you can just walk into town. There is a road. There's a path along the river easily enough. It's not the best path in the world, but it's doable. So it isn't going to derail your quest to if the boat comes aground. Just slow it down some. Yeah.
Kerr will say loudly but still calmly, Astrofel, get him off the tiller and steer us into the water. And then summon another ball and throw it at the nearest guy you can see.
Good stuff. Go for that another volley. And while you're doing that, Astrophel, do you want, and also kind of Rage, you're also kind of doing the same thing. You can give Astrophel a hand if you wanted.
I will try and assist Astrophel, yes.
Let's see how that, was that your volley there? That's a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Straight up volley, deal your damage. You're throwing another fireball into the kind of the scrub on the side.
8.
Lovely. Another kind of bush goes up in flames, and you hear a kind of a roar, kind of a muted grunt as another one of them kind of goes up, his jerkin on fire.
Can we see these guys relatively well? I mean, these are just like
you
normal
can see them a bit clearer now, yeah, because you're that much
Ruffian.
closer. As you can see, they're mostly humanoids, human as opposed to kind of taller than human, or they're not probably dwarf or halfling particularly. There's some shorter, there's some taller, but yeah, broadly humanoid. Dressed in kind of, I mean, it's villager wear, but even for villagers, it's muddy and gross, and pretty kind of torn. I mean, there's some of them who haven't kind of got like jerkins on. Like some of them aren't properly clothed, and certainly from what you can tell, they aren't properly equipped either. Actually, as you get closer, you even see one of them, like their crossbow kind of misfires, and you see him trying to sort of bash it to try and get it to work again. So they're clearly there's a lot of them, but it's quantity over quality here.
Okay. And how many? I mean, roughly?
No more than a dozen that you can see.
Oh,
I mean, it's hard to tell because they're moving in and out of the scrub, but no more than a dozen.
Okay.
So anyway, back to the tiller. Astrophel, and or Rage Cage. Do you want to try and move this tiller and try and get yourselves back on track, or what else are you doing?
Yeah, let's get the seamen off of the tiller and us away from danger.
Yes.
Indeed.
Maybe if we join forces and move him, and yeah, we should probably manage to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So who's got the better strength out of the two of you? Who's stronger?
I have strength 9, which is a 0.
Mm-hmm.
I also have strength 0.
Excellent. So it's even Stevens, and no particular bonds. So one of you's actually, wait, you're both just rolling 2d6. It doesn't actually matter. Let's say, for argument's sake, because you're probably closer, Astrophel, you drop your arrow and try and kind of heave the guy and the tiller off, and Rage, you help out as best you can. So you're both rolling 2d6 plus nothing.
Oh.
Brilliant.
Dear, oh dear.
Oh, here we go. Right. There we
Rage
go.
Cage is going to level before we even get there.
I am, I think.
Why change the habit of a lifetime, eh, Rage?
More new spells, it's all good.
So, Rage, you kind of go up to help and get a bolt in your shoulder for your efforts, taking d6 damage, which kind of knocks you back into the bottom of the boat. But in the meantime, Astrophel, you kind of lever this guy, now slumped properly, this dead weight, you lever him off of the tiller and push him off to one side and just yank the tiller back in your direction with all of your might, and you kind of you feel it slowly but surely give, and just as the thing's about to kind of crash and starts to run aground, you feel it kind of, you have to kind of shake it a little bit to kind of make sure the boat gives way, but yes, you feel the current just take you and just keeps the boat floating for a little bit longer, and kind of gets you back towards kind of the center of the river and kind of keeps you going.
Wait. Yeah, we did the Sherfoot drift.
Say again?
We did the Sherfoot drift. It's like the Tokyo drift, but much,
yeah, absolutely.
Much slower.
Yeah, it's like a Tokyo drift, but it's at 5 miles an hour and there's arrows involved. Right. Did you have your damage there, Christian?
Yeah, I got T damage.
Oh, okay,
So
cool.
I've taken that off my hit points.
Armor is normal. Armor, I think you've got one.
I do have one
haven't you?
armor.
So
Good point.
just 1 point damage, just a flesh wound. Glanced off a scale. So, with the tiller kind of back on track, you find the arrow starting to lessen as you kind of find your way back onto the kind of the straight and narrow onto the shore proper. You kind of keep your heads, as you keep your heads down, and they realise that they aren't going to be able to kind of ambush you essentially like they intended, and you're not going to give up without too much. You know, they're not just going to go down easy. They basically, the arrow starts stopping. You hear a couple of kind of muted orders, kind of grunts from the shore, and then the arrows just start to lessen, and the rain of arrows just turns into more of a regular drizzle again.
Are they still within earshot?
They weren't really in earshot before, to be fair. I mean, you could hear kind of the louder kind of barks and kind of the larger grunts of them kind of saying, vague orders of... Yeah, go for it.
As we move away, I just want to play a mocking song, mocking their ineptitude at capturing us.
Oh yeah, that you can totally do. You can totally do that. In fact, go ahead and roll plus charisma.
6, 7, 8.
8. Okay, awesome. Yeah, you play a suitably mocking tune that you're pretty sure reach their ears, and you don't get an arrow through your head for the effort. As you kind of clear back on, and the water, though kind of choked with reeds and whatnot, is still kind of, there's enough of a current going through to kind of get you down towards the village proper, towards Sherford, and get you back onto the sort of straight and narrow. So the last sort of hour of the journey passes fairly uneventfully, although you're keeping your arm. Does anyone want to do anything with the ferryman? It was his boat. Anyone want to say anything? Anyone want to do anything? He's pretty much a goner.
Don't know how horrible I want to be, really.
His boots are a couple of sizes too large for you.
Yeah,
Don't look particularly pleasant.
Well, no, I think what we'll have to do is just we can't keep him on. I'm just going to look at it. I just imagine we're all standing around him.
Yeah, he's just in the boat at the moment.
I'll just cross my arms and just say, well, we can't leave him on here.
No.
And just look at everyone. Sort of like push him over.
It's just like...
Yeah.
Kerr says a few words in dragon tongue.
Oh, okay.
And touches the guy in the forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And probably leaves a small finger point size burn mark on his forehead.
Okay, cool.
Is there a dinghy?
A what? Sorry.
A dinghy.
A dinghy? No,
No.
nothing. It's in itself is a glorified dinghy. It's a flat bottom boat. Lord of the Rings, Lake Town. They got the flat bottom skiffs for bringing in just your usual sort of fares, barrels of fish and salt and grain and that sort of thing. It's a very simple trader's, not a skiff.
Is he still alive? Is he?
No, he's very much dead.
How wide is like the wall bit of the fence bit of the barge?
The sides of the barge.
Yeah.
How tall are they, or how wide are they?
How wide are they?
How wide are they?
All I'm saying, if I propped him up on the edge.
He wouldn't rest on the edge. He wouldn't rest on the edge. If you put him on the edge, he'd probably either roll back into the boat with an undignified thud, or he'd roll into the water with an undignified splash.
Okay.
You can roll for it if you like.
Well, I'm just thinking I'm gonna just like I'm gonna say, did anyone catch his name? And I guess and no one's answering me, so I'm like sort of shrugging, and I said, well, and I'm gonna lift him up onto the edge and just kind of let him go, fall off the edge into the water.
Okay. Cool.
Back to the mud.
You hear a dull tss as the kind of burning mark on his forehead that Kerr left kind of hisses out, kind of blinks out from the water. Kerr, go ahead and roll plus wisdom for me.
Okay. That would be a 13.
Cool. Kerr, you get a sense of someone or something in the area having taken note of your kind of ceremony, your funereal rite. You're not sure who or what exactly. There's a presence that you felt that there was another presence with you, kind of watching, maybe approving of the ceremony. You're not sure. You're not certain. But there's definitely someone else there, someone who knew about funereal rites like yours, and they knew you did that, and they were watching you do that. Anyway.
So nearby.
Say again.
Nearby.
Well, it wasn't on the other side of the world, certainly. There's someone somewhere has seen that you did that, and they're aware of it.
When you speak like dragon tongue, does it like carry on the wind almost as well? So they might have heard what you were saying or something.
Yeah, I mean, dragon tongue is something that almost sounds like my mouth shouldn't be able to do it.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
It's definitely got a bit of an otherworldly, perhaps magical or something kind of feeling.
Oh, cool.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's definitely the words carry in a way they come out your mouth in a way that shouldn't make sense, and perhaps they carry on the wind, like you say, Christian, in a way that shouldn't make sense. And
Quick question.
Yeah.
Matt, just from that. How old is Kerr?
How old?
Yeah.
Early 20s, not very old.
No, for some reason I had in my head he was younger, but okay.
yeah, I think it's your avatar, your picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks younger than he is.
Okay. That's what I was just wondering.
Yeah, I mean, if we haven't had a conversation about it, and he does pretty much look like the picture.
Yeah.
So
I think the reason why, the reason why earlier it was kind of like shouted at the other two was because I imagine him being, say, for some reason I've got him head, because of the picture he looks sort of like 16 or whatever or something like that. It's like he's just a kid. He needs to keep his head down, and then he just blew two guys up. So I'm like, okay, he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, he holds himself like you would expect a well-trained monk of 25, but he does look like he's 16.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. All right then. I won't underestimate him again then.
That sounds like a good bond if you fancy writing a bond down.
I might do then, actually.
So shall we fast forward to coming to the village itself, or does anyone else want to do anything else on this boat? Any kind of preparations or anything else?
I can sense magic as like one of my main.
Yes, you can.
Skills.
Absolutely.
Can I sort of have try and have a bit of a sense about this gem we're carrying? Or
Definitely.
What it might actually be.
Definitely, you can give it. In fact, you can spout lore about it. I mean, that's not even it's magic. So in a way, you can detect yes, there is indeed magic involved with that. But you can certainly spout lore to see if you know anything about what this gem might involve or anything like that.
Okay. If I spout lore, do I roll? Sorry, excuse me.
What you do is you roll and you add your intellect. So you're good at spouting lore.
So roll 2d6 as standard, yeah.
Roll 2d6 and add your intellect. Yeah, that's the one. Intelligence. I think it's +2.
Dear, oh dear. I got
That's
7.
Okay. 7. Yeah, well, 7's still a pass. So what happens with spout lore? Spout lore is kind of like you remembering stuff. It's kind of like relying on your education. Like in the real world, spout lore would be like, how do I do long division again? Oh yeah, that's right. I do it by such and such. I would fail because I can't actually remember how to do long division right now. But you get the idea. So on a 7 to 9, you remember something interesting. I tell you what. Basically, I honestly tell you something that you remember about this thing. On a 10 plus, you remember something interesting and useful. So you roll a 7, so you get something interesting. It's up to you to make that useful or not. So you certainly know. So you've seen a gem like this before. You've seen gems of this ilk before. It's kind of it's not so much kind of the shape or anything because it's just a crude uncut gem. It's in a way it wouldn't be worth that much, but its actual color, this kind of almost unreal, opaque, brilliant blue, is very memorable. And you've seen gems like this before. You've probably seen them in your native cold homeland as well. These kind of icy, dead-like gems. These gems are let's say they're called necronite. There you go, necronite. They're a kind of gem that's formed under very specific conditions in mines, mine shafts, and valleys, and other areas which are near to places of death. So where there have been like long-standing burial grounds and stuff like that, and people have buried underneath, they might have mined out gems like this, which kind of explains its magical properties of making you appear dead.
Okay.
It's not super common. It's they're pretty rare, and they're the sort of they're like it's like a fossil fuel or something. It would take years and years, and they only occur under very rare conditions. But by the same token, they aren't super rare either. I suppose they aren't like a diamond or something. So yeah, and a fist-sized chunk is quite a lot of it as well. So whoever this guy, this Demophon is. he wants a lot of it. He probably paid quite a lot for it from the mercenary company or whoever.
Fair enough.
So yes, you're kind of musing over this crystal, racking your brains trying to remember this. Is anyone else doing anything else as this village kind of appears on the horizon?
Sorry, go on, Matt. After you.
Just a quick question: is the gem physically cold?
Not really. The gem actually feels fairly regular to the touch. It's just that whoever's holding it, like I mean, if you wanted to actually pick it up and hold it, and Rage Cage had no problem with you taking it, you'd feel a shiver. You'd feel it'd be like if a ghost passed through or something, you know.
No, I was just wondering if there was like a feeling of cold around it. Just that.
No, it's not.
Pro would probably avoid it.
I imagine you would. I mean, yeah. Maybe I'm overthinking this. There's a sense of cold to it, but it's not like some kind of elemental ice crystal thingy.
Right.
It's more,
Okay.
yeah. Anyway, so yeah. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else wants to do anything else as the village is rising?
All I was going to say was I was going to try and pull a couple of arrows out of the boat to see if they're serviceable.
Absolutely. Okay. So as you're coming up towards the you're coming up towards like the bridge, which is kind of the entrance to the town. You're seeing it looks, even at this kind of distance, it looks pretty abandoned. There was never much to it. It had kind of what's it called when you've got the wooden stakes sticking outwards?
Palisade?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, crude palisade. It is literally just wooden spikes just sticking outwards. There's a very crude wall barrier, and most of those are broken or rotted away, or just fallen aside. So that's kind of the borders to the town. You see those on either side of the banks, kind of spanning away, and there's a bridge that you're kind of going to get to, coming up on the horizon. So you see this coming on the horizon as you're kind of picking out these arrows. Defy danger with I don't know. The danger being that you kind of you hold your boat because you want to make sure you're picking the right ones. You see. Screw it. You've got enough time to do it. It's fine. You can. Yeah, you grab an extra point of ammo.
Cool.
So you grab your ammo. You're kind of collecting a few of these. Probably a couple of them do open up a few small holes. So the boat is not long for this world. But it'll last long enough to get you to the shore. Okay. So you come up against the bridge of Sherford. Kind of you pass past these palisades. Actually, the bridge itself is a little bit further into town, at kind of the centre of town. So you're kind of passing through this old rotted village. There's not much to it. A few. It's reasonably well built. You're not talking wattle and daub here, but you're not talking many steps beyond that either. There's a few kind of spare stone structures, most with kind of caved in or missing roofs. It's mostly thatch, which is now long since rotted away. A few kind of skeletal structures are still mostly standing. Yeah, from either side of the bank as you come up to the bridge, you don't see much beyond these kind of old broken domiciles. Mostly look abandoned, unless anyone wants to be doing anything in terms of discerning realities or anything else to... I suppose as you're coming up, you might want to discern realities, or you might want to spout lore about the village to know what you know about local history.
Being a bit of a scout, I'm going to keep my eye out, and my advanced move, I actually took one which adds a couple of questions to discern reality.
Awesome.
Which are, if I can find it, here we go. It's called Tactical Eye. And it says you can add these options. There's three of them. What's my best escape route? Where's my best cover? And which of my allies is most vulnerable?
Okay.
So as we enter town, I'd imagine that I'm sitting somewhere fairly up, maybe towards the other end, the front of the boat.
Yep.
I'm sort of watching out, just all the sort of windows and doors and alleyways, just like trying to catch the figure out. Is there anything about jump? Are these guys are there more of these guys somewhere nearby? And
sure.
Or is there any sign is there a trail of smoke or something at all that I can pick out? Like,
sure.
Is anyone in this town essentially?
Sure. So yeah, you've got a good view from the top of the boat. There's no arrows coming at you. I mean, obviously you guys are on alert, but as it happens right now, there's nothing going on. It's a dead town. No smoke that you can see around the houses that are surrounding you, and even sort of the rows behind those that you can't really see, but you could see if there was any smoke coming out, and there isn't. There's nothing here. It's just crows flying about every now and again. An odd breeze just kind of rustling the last few rotted strands of straw. you might see a couple of odd shadows, but in the old rotted windows, the ones which even have kind of first floors or even have windows, frankly. But there isn't anything that gives you any kind of unconditional cause for alarm as of this. When you say you've got an additional move, you've got an advanced move, do you have to kind of still discern realities for that? Do you still have to roll?
Yeah. So basically.
At a glance, from a tactical eye, you don't see anything immediately, but but what you do see are plenty of cubby holes. Okay. So yeah, you could totally go ahead and roll and see what there is to see.
It's wisdom, isn't it? Wisdom's what? +1. So 7.
7. Okay.
Yep.
So there you go. Go ahead and ask one of your questions.
So I'm going to ask, what's my best escape route? Because if we're going in here and these guys are going to turn up, I'm thinking, what's going to be the best way to get me and potentially the rest of my guys out of there if need be?
Absolutely. So you're kind of eyeing up from the. You're only coming in from one angle, to be fair. So you don't have a full lie of the land, and you don't necessarily know the village any more than you know any other village. But what you do know is this: there's these palisades which, although rotten, do sort of barricade. They are offensive sorts around the borders of the town. The only area which isn't, that you know for a fact isn't bordered, is the river, the way you came in on.
Yeah.
So the most definite way in or out, to your knowledge, would be the way you came in, by river. It's whether swimming, wading, waking your way around kind of the edges of the river and the palisade there, or whatever. But yeah, the river would be your way. Let's see, we said western, eastern shores. So let's say, I've got a little map here for my own edification. Western, east. So you're coming in south. So the way home would be kind of heading north relative to where you are now.
Have we got, were we given a place to go in the town? Or a rendezvous point? Or or we're just there to, have they been asked to arrive?
You were not given a specific rendezvous point, no. They just said Sherford. They just said in Sherford. Now you do know that because it's something that is common to almost every village. In fact, you can see it. You can see it because it's next to the bridge. There's a town square, like most villages, especially ones which have rivers running through them. Kind of the town square and the marketplace and the most central meeting area. You're coming up on now. It's at the bridge. So you would assume that would be the kind of general meeting area. It's not a big village. I mean, you can't see much from your current eye view because you're on the river. But once you get out the boat, you might be able to get onto the bridge, for example, or you can have a quick look around. You can have a recce. You'd probably get the lay of the land of the entire village without having to do too much exploring, and hopefully see some signs of life if you haven't already found your contact by then.
There's got to be a dock visible by now, yeah?
There is, yeah. As you come up to the bridge on the eastern side, so on the other side, there's a dock. It's rotted, it's old, it's crappy, but it's serviceable. And unless there's any other reason not to, you guys come up against it and anchor up and rope up, whatever, and come ashore.
Before we do that, I would like to invoke my bardic lore.
Absolutely.
And I chose Grand Histories of the Known World.
Okay.
And because this is probably an important location, I can ask you one question about this, and you will answer truthfully.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, and I don't even have to roll.
Absolutely. No, you just go for it.
Yeah, because I want to know, why was this village abandoned?
Excellent question. So, this village was abandoned relatively recently. Within a generation, so within the last 20 years, there was a magical ritual of some kind. Reports are scarce because there weren't many survivors, but the general gist of it is that there was a magical ritual that went awry and somehow kind of corrupted the land here. This town in itself isn't notable, but I guess this is the sort of place that magicians would consider a place of power, quote unquote. There's always been witch lights in the night and will-o'-wisps on the river and that sort of thing. You know, it's a sort of town that others would consider haunted, but because it's on the river, it did very well. So for a long time, it did pretty well for a little humdrum village in the middle of nowhere, until there was this strange event 20 years ago. Some kind of magical thing went wrong. It killed the townsfolk, drove the survivors out, most of them were driven out into the wilderness, where very few survived. A few merchants made it. You know, the ones who did survive mostly made it on merchant barges up or down the river, which that's basically what they told. They didn't really know. They just knew it was some kind of magical disaster. More witch lights. There was the night turned into day. Lightning struck down people as they stood. And all kinds of strange, rampant things, like the ghosts of the past coming to devour the present, and demons and bat folk and winged beasts filling the sky and stuff like this. Some of this stuff you would assume is hearsay, but there's always a grain of truth in these stories. That's the common story anyway. So, what sort of tale, song, or legend did you hear that information in?
That's the legend is called the Night of Terror, and this has been told from the survivors, and every single survivor who told this tale added more terror to this. So in the end, it was like hell on earth, probably, but it wasn't quite as bad, I think.
Yeah.
It grew over time, and my grandfather was there. Blood was coming out of the river, and
yeah, exactly. That's because it's like the weird thing is you're coming up the river. You're like, well, hold on. In the tale, it's like the last time I heard this tale, they said the river turned to blood and went dry, but I'm on the river, and they said all the houses exploded into showers of flesh and horror, but the stones are still standing. So like you're already noticing inconsistencies in the story, things which might have been kind of driven out of proportion or something. But I mean, certainly the town's abandoned, and yeah.
Yeah. What's clear? There must have happened there, and because people went away, so
and they haven't come back.
Yeah, we should probably be a bit careful here.
Absolutely. Right, I'm going to call a break there. We're going to have a little break. Just a quick check in terms of time. How are people doing in terms of time tonight? Can people play past 10 o'clock, or is 10 o'clock got to be our cut-off point?
I can do about another hour or so.
Okay, anyone else?
Me too.
I'm fine, yeah.
Okay, Christian?
It's
not the end of the world if you can't. It's not a problem.
I'm afraid, yeah, 10's probably it for me.
That's not a problem. Okay, well, what we'll do then is we're going to take a quick break now, just, get new cups of tea, whatever. We'll come back in a minute and carry things on from there. All right?
Sure.
I'm just going to stop the broadcast, obviously. Hang about if you want to for a second. All right? Cheers then, guys. Back in a sec.